Why did people move west in the 1800s?
In the 1800s, Americans moved west because in the east there wasn't enough farming land, so they moved west.
I believe the expansion was mostly gifted towards better lands, better opportunities. There was also less regulation the farther you went out west, so so there's more frontiers, more opportunities, and there was less less restrictions for going out there. That's why it was called the Wild West, if you will. Another big factor as well was riches. Gold and glory. Like the 1849 gold rush, and and there's other resources as well that helped influence people to move west. Like there was the Transcontinental Railroad, right, in the 1800s. That was a really big expansion point as well that brought people to the west.
Well, I think one of the reasons why they moved in the west during the 1800s was because of trying to gain more territory, trying to gain more resources to expand, for settlement and things like that. Because this might just, I don't know if my history is right or anything, but I feel like this is the era of gold rush, and like when people heard that like there's gold in California, in the Rockies, it kind of created kind of that like movement to like move towards the west and gather all these resources and make sure that they have like all this wealth and things like that. So yeah.
People moved for religious freedom because they felt oppressed in the East. They wanted to establish their own religious practice. They also wanted financial gain such as access for gold. They were hoping for free land because they wanted to own land and expand their options.
Manifest Destiny encouraged Western settlement.
Well, Manifest Destiny is the idea that America was to settle all the land from sea to shining sea, or from the Atlantic to the Pacific. So this would encourage Western settlement, the idea that they must find this Pacific Ocean so that they can achieve God's will and so they can create this city upon a hill, as we were saying America was going to be.
Well, Manifest Destiny was I believe was the idea that we wanted to expand the United States from the East Coast to the West Coast. So I guess that encourages people to move there.
Basically just gave them a reason to do it. And they just thought that since they were... No. What? That wasn't what it even said before. No.
Wait. Pause. Okay. People were encouraged because Manifest Destiny made them believe that the U.S. should own all of North America. By 1898, the U.S. already owned all of what now is the United States. That same year, they annexed Hawaii. How did Westward Expansion affect the relationship between the United States and peoples during this time?
Okay, so thinking back, I think that it affected it negatively because the native people were being kicked out of their homes, and there was a lot of tension because people didn't take the time to try to understand each other for the most part. So yeah, that's my answer.
I think that the Westward Expansion caused a lot of conflict because as people were conflicting borders and trying to fight for territory, it definitely caused some strife between peoples of the United States and those people that already inhabited those areas.
Well, during the time of Westward Expansion, obviously a lot of the American peoples were going and invading native land, whether that was their intention or not. They invaded the native lands, and a lot of that led to things like the Trail of Tears, where people were putting them onto reservations. So obviously tension was really high between the native peoples and Americans, early Americans at this point.
Well, the United States and its westward expansion resulted in conflict between the Native Americans and the new settlers, as well as the of whether or not the new territory should allow slavery or not.
There were problems with the Native Americans and the pioneers. The pioneers had fought to take their land that they had occupied for several thousand years. Native Americans were later put in reservations.
Mexico ceded their land in the Mexican cession to the U.S. The people moving westward needed shelter, food, better health, and protection, also ownership of land, transportation, and money.
Just a quick summary. People wanted free land, gold, and jobs. The railroads gave people the opportunity to work. The causes were the manifest destiny, population, economy, and land price. The effects or outcomes were the Pony Express, the Continental Railroad, and the California Gold Rush. Cede means to give up power or territory. In this case, it was territory, a Mexican territory, which includes Texas, New Mexico, and California. The westward expansion was a slow process until the Louisiana Purchase, which was the largest land deal in our history. It doubled the size of the United States. Overall, people wanted a better life and more options, and all of this caused the westward expansion.